Previous session, we discussed about the concept of working with technically. How we can, what are the points about the Angular features, right? So what are the features of Angular? Yeah. And the versions which are under support. So only 3 versions are there. Even Angular 8 is also not under support now. So means professionally up to 8, there are no more Angular versions supported. So only Angular 9 and Angular 10 and Angular 11. These are the 3 versions. Angular 9 and 10 are under long-term support. Currently active version of Angular is 11. So we are going to work with this, the latest active version, that is 11. So for that, what is the environment? How do we set up the environment? Let's see. So for creating an Angular application, we need to set up the environment for Angular. We need to set the environment for Angular. So how we can set the environment for Angular, we will see. Means how do we install Angular? So to install Angular, so from your command prompt, so because already you have installed Node.js, already we have Node.js, we have npm package manager. So because through npm we installed TypeScript and all, already you have the package manager. So what you need to do is through npm, you have to run the command install -g and @ Angular CLI. You have to install so Angular CLI. Actually, CLI is a command line tool for Angular. So it provides you a set of commands to create the project, to manage the project, and handle your Angular project. So this tool, once you install, it will get you entire Angular library installed. Whatever base library is required for Angular, it will install. So technically, so this is enough for setting up your Angular. So globally, -g, it installs globally so that you can use in any drive, any location you can manage it, right? Next, after understanding, so this version installing, right? So this is a simple line. Suppose if you already have any older version of Angular, suppose Angular 8, Angular 9, Angular 10, older versions are there, because we are going to work with Angular 11. So you have to uninstall the older versions and install the new one. Actually, if you already have any older version, then you can run npm uninstall -g Angular CLI. So, and after that, so after executing this, you have to run the command, so cache verify. So this will uninstall the existing version of Angular, and it will clean up, cache verify will clean up all the registry files, so that Angular is completely removed from your machine. After that, you install npm install -g Angular CLI. This will install the latest version of Angular. After installing the latest version of Angular, you need to verify. So npm ng version. This will show you the version of Angular installed on your computer. Once you finished installing Angular CLI, which Angular version is installed, you can verify by running this ng version. So here we can just write ng version, and this flag will get you the Angular version installed on your computer. So you can see the Angular version installed, Angular CLI is 11. Angular CLI is 11. That is the Angular version that we have. This is the Angular version. And Angular have installed some Ivy workspace, some development kits. So some development kit core, semantics. So these are additional libraries which are added. Their versions will be different. So because they are some additional libraries used by Angular. They need not to be Angular same 11 version. They will be different. You have to just verify the CLI version. Because Angular uses a lot of libraries additionally, which are not technically same version numbers as Angular CLI version. So you will see different there. So here Angular CLI 11. So this indicates that now you are having, so the Angular 11 installed successfully on your machine, right? You don't need to do anything else other than what I have given to you. Understood? If you want to install any particular version, then you have to type any version npm install -g Angular CLI @9 @10. Understood? Yeah. That is how you install. That is a general thing. So usually anybody who knows about package manager softwares, this is a general thing. Any software is installed in this way with the other versions. If you still have any problem, if you want to install anything else, what exe you will install, what you are talking about, what exe you are talking about, why you are worried about exe, what is exe for you? Why you are talking about exe? Is exe your favorite? Why you are concerned about exe here? So we are installing a package manager, using a package manager. How you install TypeScript, Mr. Anand? You got any exe file? Huh? I clearly showed you the then why you have so much confusion in your brain that you need an exe? Huh? Yeah. So just follow this. This is enough, right? So you need to just install the files. So with single command, everything with single command only, right? Yeah. So here we have if you already have any older version installed, then you need to get into this. That means you need to remove the existing version and you need to clean from the cache and then install the new version and check the version. So which version you have installed, that's enough. That is how we install Angular for our project. Now after installing Angular, so we have to configure the Angular workspace. So we will use an Angular workspace. So we have to configure Angular workspace. Angular workspace is nothing but usually workspace. Workspace comprises of set of Angular projects. That means you can maintain all your Angular projects in a workspace. Workspace will share a common library across all the projects. Every project have its own library. At the same time, workspace have a common library. Workspace will provide a common library. So generally, when you are working with high-end projects, we will not just create an application. We will create a workspace. In that workspace, we maintain the application. So how do we configure the workspace and how we can define the application inside the workspace? First, how do we configure the workspace? So that means we need to create a workspace to maintain all our Angular projects. So I will create a workspace in my C drive. So what we are doing now is we are going to the command prompt. In the command prompt here, I will come out of all the current directory location. In C drive or D drive at any location, you have to just run the command here, ng new, and any workspace name. I give an Angular 11 projects, that is the workspace name. So, or Angular 11 projects, that is the workspace name. So you can first create an workspace. Then in that workspace, you can maintain some applications. Currently, we want to create a simple workspace for maintaining all our Angular applications, right? So then we have to just run the command ng new, and what is the workspace name? In this workspace, we don't want to create any application currently. Then -- create application, you can set to false. Otherwise, so it will create an application along with the workspace. So then we can see how we can work with the projects in the workspace. So this command will maintain a workspace for you without any application currently. So once the workspace is ready, in that you can add any number of applications. What is advantage is the workspace will share a common library for all the projects. Every project have its own library, along with that a shared library across all the projects. So you can directly create an application also without workspace, but we recommend this every time. So I hit enter now. Now it is going to create a new workspace for us. So it is asking here, first step is, do you want to enforce any stricter So in the workspace, it is just for Angular team to access your workspace, so that this will identify and fix the bugs. So by the Angular team, they can easily catch the bugs. So before they are resolved. Later also we can use this. Later also we can enable this, right? So then, as of now, we don't want to uh, define this strict bundle in workspace. So later we will see how we can manage that. So I'm not selecting any strict bundle. That means I said no, because that is required during the deployments and building phases, which you will learn towards the end. As of now, we don't need that. Just continue with N. And here, the bundling. So here we have defined the project name. So that is having problem with the spaces and all. So I will just use the name as sim Angular 11 projects. Okay, it's having the name issue. Okay, no, and it is creating all the library. It is maintaining the library for your application. So this is first downloading and installing all the library required for an Angular workspace. We need to first know what are the components that are available in the workspace. It will take a little while to get you all the libraries and install the library for the workspace. Remember, we are not yet creating an Angular application. We are first creating a workspace for applications. Workspace also comes with some shared library. We need to understand what they are and why they are, right? What is the purpose of them and why we need them actually. Let's see. So first time it will take a while. So for creating the workspace, after that, once the base library is properly installed for you, then creating applications will be easy for us. So for the next time onwards, creating application will be faster. Because Angular comes with lot of third-party frameworks and libraries like RxJS, like Jasmine and Karma. So many libraries are additionally required. All the dependencies need to be installed. Obviously, it will take a little while for doing all that. Now, once the workspace is created, we need to examine what is the file system generated for workspace. That means what files and folders the workspace gives us. In that workspace, we have to create applications and maintain our applications. Let's see. So by default, you can see here, some files are being added into your project workspace, angular.json, package.json, and readme tsconfig.json, tslint, editor config, git ignore. These are the files which are generated for you. So these are the files generated for you. So we will see, we have to understand the purpose of those files and why we need those files, right? Once the workspace is generated, we have to open this workspace in our Visual Studio Code. We need to open this in our Visual Studio Code. Yeah, meanwhile, we will see what these files are actually. So you can observe that successfully installed, everything is done. Okay. So packages successfully installed, everything is configured. Okay. Everything is successfully configured. Okay. Now, once the project is successfully installed, workspace. Now let's open this in your Visual Studio Code. So let's open the workspace in the Visual Studio Code. And we have open folder. And the folder is Angular 11 projects. Okay. And this is the workspace. And that is the workspace. Now in this workspace, technically. So the first point is in the workspace, by default, some folders and files are added for you. Remember, this is not Angular project. This is just Angular workspace where Angular projects are maintained, applications are maintained. And in this, you can see the first folder. So you have node underscore modules. Anybody who knows about general web development, he is aware of these node modules. Node modules contains all the dependencies, the libraries that are required for Angular. By default, whatever libraries are required for Angular, all are kept inside this node modules. And later, when you are adding more libraries, those libraries are also added into this location. This is the location. Suppose you install Bootstrap, you install Sass, you install Less, whatever the libraries you are going to maintain for your projects, that library related files are present here in node modules. It contains the dependencies. Now, very important is which library you installed and what is the version of the library. So, and what are the license terms. All information about the libraries installed for your current workspace. All that information is present in package.json. Package.json contains the list of all the libraries installed for your workspace, and package lock.json, it will contain the metadata of every library. That means every library related information detailing, like which version it is, what copyrights it is, what license it is, everything. Only what libraries are present, that is present in JSON, package JSON. Metadata about every library will be in package lock JSON. You can see package JSON will get you all the library. That means it contains the information about your application, its version, and all the library. You can see Angular Angular Animations 11, Angular Common 11. These are the Angular libraries. And detailed information about every library. So different library versions are there. And these are, remember here you have so many other frameworks. They will not be same 11 version because they don't belong to Angular but used by Angular. So that's the reason their versions will be different. So technically all Angular library version is 11. And when you go to package locked JSON, it will get you more information about every version. That means every package. So every package related, more details are provided here. That means package related metadata. Packages information is present. Packages information is present in package JSON, and their metadata is present in package lock JSON. Generally, why you need this package lock JSON? Because if you are going to install this project in any another machine, suppose somebody given you a project and you downloaded that project and try to run that project, it will not work directly. Why? Because first you have to install all the packages used by that project on your computer also. Now the question is, how we know what are the packages required for this project? That all information you can get from package log JSON. There are simple commands. By using those commands, you can extract these packages names and install all the packages by using one command, which you will learn later how to handle such things. Initially, the information about the packages and their metadata is present in package lock JSON, and their files are maintained in node modules. Node modules contains all the files. So we have node modules, we have package JSON, package lock JSON. And the readme.md is nothing but, in any project, readme.md, it is a help document. That means it is used by developers to create a help documentation for this application, for this workspace. That means if you want to provide any help documentation for that workspace, that project related workspace, then you can define all the help contents here. It is just a help document. All the help information, how to run the project, how to build the project, how to compile it, how to test it. Everything documentation prepared by developers can be kept here. That is related to this README file, right? And you have a file called, at the top you can see editor config. Editor config. Actually, that editor config, the editor config file, this is the editor config file. Already I showed you this when we started learning about Visual Studio Code. Once I showed you the official website of editor config. So the official website of editor config, editorconfig.org. This is the official website of editor config. And this is what actually editor config is. Editor config is present. Editor config is nothing but, one of the main problem that we face is developers who are working on different editors, but they are working on same project. That means we are working on same project. So, but we have a team in India, US, UK, like that. And the team in India is using Visual Studio Code. Team in UK is using WebStorm. Team in US is using Sublime. So we will not restrict them. So we can allow them to use any editor, whatever they want. Then one of the main problem is every editor has certain rules. And if the developer starts writing the rules according to that editor, then a lot of inconsistency in designing will come. So to avoid that, So we will define certain rules across all editors so that all projects which are built on this workspace, they may be using different editors, but they have to follow the common rules. This will reduce the inconsistency in coding, actually, in inconsistency in designing your application. So editor config will tell you the rules of how to write the lines, how much space you have to give after the line. Do you want single quote or double quotes for strings? How much line maximum length it can be? So do you want to add some additional leading spaces after the characters? These are all rules which you can add. You can add. Currently, some rules are there. You can add more rules and you can write more rules, which we'll see gradually while working with the different options. How to set the rules and how do we write the rules. What is advantage of this is, so now whatever editor they may be using, everyone will follow the same rules in that editor. That means for all editors, you can set a common rule because every editor have different rules. So this is mostly when your application is being built on an enterprise level and hundreds of people are working on your application, but using different editors. We will not restrict them to use any specific editor. They can use different editors. So, but they have to follow the same set of rules so that we will define inside this editor config. So editor config will define the rules for all editors. So for every editor, these are all the editors. User can use, developer can use any editor he wants. So, but all editors should follow the common rules. So for that we define everything. That is the intention of editor config actually, right? And we have git ignore. Git ignore is a very common concept. This is required to collaborate our application with the Git and where we will configure what to be deployed, what not to be deployed. So that means if your application have to go live and you want to make it live through the Git. So how to make it live through the Git? Towards the end, we will discuss how to deploy live on servers. We will discuss after learning how to build an application. There, whatever intentionally untracked files that Git should ignore, so that we will mention in Git ignore actually. This you will able to understand at the deployment. At the deployment generally, what happens is once we build the solution and it is ready to deploy, finally all the files are generated into a folder called dist. That means where to generate all the files, from where the files need to be ignored. So all that information will be defined in this location. This is not currently for compiling your project. This is finally deploying on live servers. So once we start learning how to deploy on live server, you will see how do we configure this, right? So we have node modules, we have editor config, we have git ignore, so which is used for deploying on live servers. And Angular.json. Angular.json is actually a CLI configuration for all projects in the workspace. That means CLI configuration means, so on which server your project should run, which local server they must use, for building which server they should use, for testing which server they should use, for serving which server they have to use. All such information is maintained inside this Angular.json. Currently, Angular.json is having only normal details. Currently, it is having nothing because we don't have projects now. Currently, we don't have projects. Once we add projects into application, several more details are added. So it is currently having only one rule. Rule is nothing but it says that whenever you create a new project, it will maintain that project in a separate folder called projects. That's good. That means in this workspace, when you create a project, it will create that project and store in a separate folder called projects. If you want any another name, you can change it. And currently, are there any projects? No, we don't have any projects. Later, when I add a project, that project related information also will be copied here. So which you will see after adding the project, we will see that some changes are happened inside this angular.json. Initially, we don't have any project. That's the reason only one point is there. It says that any new project you added, it will be added into projects folder. And if you want, you can change it. Okay, that is what actually Angular JSON is. Package JSON, package log JSON, README, all these things we discussed. Now tsconfig and tslint, these are for TypeScript. So we are using TypeScript for Angular. Again, the problem with the TypeScript is just like editors, language inconsistency will also come. Language inconsistency means developers working on different locations on the same application, they have different habits of writing TypeScript. That means when they write TypeScript, class names must be in Pascal case. That means every word first letter must be caps. Object name must be in camel case. That means those are the project rules, traditions. And string must be in single quote or double quote or backtick. So these language related rules are defined in tslint and tsconfig. Already I told you, if you remembered, so we have a ESLint also, ESLint and tslint. These are nothing but language analysis tools. These are nothing but language analysis tools. Generally, we have language analysis tools like PMD, like Sonar. These are language analysis tools. ESLint. These are language analysis tools. Individually, you have them. Suppose we have PMD. This is PMD. It is a language analysis tool. It's a language analyzer. So developers use these analysis tools. We have ESLint also. This is also language analyzer. ESLint is JavaScript language analyzer. That means when you are using JavaScript, when you are using TypeScript, when you are using Java, .NET languages. So when you are writing code, so this lint, what it will do is, it will identify is that code that you written is according to the standards or not. It is not violating the standards. If it is violating the standard, because people working on a enterprise-based environment, so they have to follow certain standards in programming. They cannot be on their own style. So they have to follow certain standards. So then those all are defined inside this tslint here. You can see that tslint is a code analyzer. It is a code analyzer. It contains the rules for TypeScript. It contains the rules for TypeScript. In that rules, it will mention so many things. For example, generally in TypeScript, what we have done is, suppose we are creating a variable. So variable name, and that we define data type. Data type is equal to so some value. So we are storing some value. So now important is, I told you that TypeScript supports type inference. It supports type inference. That means if you don't define the data type according to the value type, so that you have initialized, it will define that data type to this variable. So mentioning data type is required or not. That means some developers will write data type, some will not write data type. Then it is like a lot of confusion in your code, because on one project, several developers are working and one person is writing in one way, another person is writing in another way. This leads to a lot of code inconsistency. So editors inconsistency will be there, code inconsistency also will be there, related to the language which they are using. To avoid that, we will set rules for TypeScript also, so that every developer will follow the rules. If he is not following the rules, it will immediately warn him, saying that in as per the rules, this is not recommended. So he will take care about that. So that is defined here. You can observe here, the rules are defined. So with so many things will be there in the rules. We can add rules, we can remove rules. So that means it says that curly, so is true. So array type is false. That means when you create an array, don't need to define the type for array. So that means data type need not to define for array. If you change it to true, it is mandatory to mention the array type, right? So that means this kind of rules will be there. This kind of rules will be there. Indentation, how much it should be. Class per file, how much it will be. Is there any length for class for file? In a file, can I maintain multiple classes? Or in every file, do I need to maintain only one class? So these all are the rules. These are all the rules defined here. These are all the rules defined here. You can add more rules. You see, no inferable types is true. No inferable types is true. Inferable types true means the point is, so you don't need to define the data type. You don't need to define the data type. So that means data type will no need to define. Even you define, it doesn't matter, but it is not required as per the rule here. These are all the rules, and see quotation mark. So for strings, you have to write single quote. What happens if I write double quote? Nothing will happen. It will show a warning. It's not error. It shows a warning. And these warnings will help the developers to understand that, okay, I need to follow this rule, and you have to follow that. These are all the rules for TypeScript. These are all the rules for TypeScript. That is defined in TS-lint. Anywhere lint is an analyzer. TS-lint, ES-lint, these are analyzers actually, code analyzers. So which are very important. Another TS-config. TSConfig.json, it contains information about the TypeScript compiler. So that means which compiler TypeScript is using and where its files will be generated. That means TypeScript will transcompile everything into JavaScript, and where it is going to copy all the transcompiled JavaScript code. It is going to copy everything into a folder called dist out ts. And which target version of JavaScript it is going to translate the TypeScript into. It is going to translate into, so ES15 and above, ES15 and above. That means it is going to use all these ES versions. And currently module is ES 2020, that means the latest version. So that means it is using the default. I told you na, asynchronous module distribution, AMD, and CommonJS are the module systems used by, so generally CommonJS, AMD systems are used internally, I told you when we discussed about modules. And it is using that module system to combine all your files and use them. So, and the library for DOM manipulations also, it uses 218 ES. So that means ES8 it is using. So that's good. That's good. That means it is using the latest of JavaScript for translating. You can change it to older version also. You can change it to older version also. That means when you are using TypeScript, rules for TypeScript are present in TS-lint. And the configuration for TypeScript is in TS-config. Configuration means where it has to generate the output files. So into which version of JavaScript it has to compile. So all such information will be defined inside this TS-config, which you can customize according to your project requirements. You can add new features into this and we can manage that. So this is all the workspace related content. This is all the workspace related content. That means now you just understood the concept of workspace. Still you don't have an Angular project. Now these are the files for maintaining the rules for all your projects running in this workspace. Now how to create a project here? How to create an Angular application? To create an Angular application inside this workspace, open the terminal. So we opened the terminal, and in the terminal we have to run the command. So ng generate, ng is used for angular generate. Ng is, these are all the CLI commands. Angular CLI commands are used with prefix ng. These are Angular CLI commands. You will learn several commands gradually one by one how to use them. So npm are package commands. So this ng is Angular commands. So now ng generate application. We have to generate an application and application name. What name you want to give for application? I will give the name as some Amazon. That is the application name. Any name for the application. So inside the workspace, you are generating an application Amazon. Let's hit enter. Now it will ask you few questions when you try to create an application. So first question it is asking here is, do you want to share your application over the Angular team so that it can track your application, it can identify the bugs and all? Currently, we don't want that. We don't want to collaborate until we publish it. Okay, so no need that. So just no, right? And the next step, it is asking, would you like to add Angular routing? In Angular, you will learn about routing. Routing is a technique used for navigation. So that we will learn when we are learning about routing. Currently, we will not add any routing. I say no. Even if you say no, it doesn't matter for you, because whenever you want again enable them, you can enable them. How to enable that you are going to learn. So currently I don't want any routing because I don't know anything about routing and I will not use it for a while. So just ignore that routing also. Okay, no. Next step, which CSS you want to use? You see, you have CSS, SCSS, SAS, less. What kind of CSS files you want to use? So because we are working in a development environment, so it depends on how you know your CSS. If you know SAS, less like things, then you can directly write your CSS in SAS and less. So that SAS less also you will be installed here, and you can convert your SAS files into CSS files and use them. At an enterprise level, people who are working with a lot of user interfaces, they maintain, you know already, Bootstrap also is entirely designed in SAS only. You can maintain, but finally SAS less, these are not understandable to browser. It has to be transcompiled into CSS only. So we will directly use CSS. Later I will show you how to create SAS, but for that you have to learn SAS. Without learning SAS, CSS, you cannot use them at all, right? So here I'm just using the basic CSS. Okay, so because that is the final what happens for your application, right? Even you write less or SAS files, they need to be transcompiled into CSS only finally. So less and SAS allows us to maintain the CSS in more easy to extend reusability concerns and all they are provide us so that we can easily handle our CSS. You might have learned SAS and less when you learned about CSS things. Huh? Now, technically, you are creating an application in the workspace. You can create any number of applications in the workspace. You can create any number of applications in the workspace. Now, for your application, a separate file system is generated. For your application, a separate file system is generated. Now once the project is added, you will observe that lot of additional libraries are added into your project, and the workspace is also updated now. Your package JSON is updated with the new libraries installed that is required for running an application. So we are not directly creating an Angular application. First, we created a workspace. In the workspace, we are maintaining the application, right? Generally, don't get confused with this, because many people have an habit of go online, Google, and see how to create an application. You will see majority 99% everywhere. So the process of creating an Angular application everywhere. So that is the reason, don't get confused. We are not directly creating an application like other people. We are designing it as an enterprise level. So we are creating first workspace. In that workspace, we are creating an application. So that is the approach we are following. Actually, you will see a command people using regularly. So simply they will use ng new, then app name. That's it. So that means directly at their command line, they run this command. So then what happens, it will directly create an Angular application. It will not maintain any workspace for them. So it will directly create an Angular application for them. So we are not doing that. We are first creating an application. So workspace, we are creating a workspace. So for that, so ng new workspace name, and here create application, we set false. After creating workspace, we are generating application. That means ng generate. You can use shortcut G, application. So application, and application name, app name. So in the workspace, you are adding application. In many occasions, 100 to 100% majority of the situations, you will see people showing you this, right? So, but we will not do that. So here we are first creating workspace, and in the workspace, we are maintaining a project. And once the library is ready for the project, so Angular project also is installed with a lot of library. But one of the advantages is it is modular. It will use only the library that is currently required for the application according to what you have designed. But for building an application, whatever library is required, it will install everything for you. Yeah, so now successfully installed the library for you. So project is ready. You can open this project folder. You can see a new projects folder is added. And when we open the projects folder, you can see in the projects, there is Amazon. And in Amazon, you have several other folders inside it. And some more files are present inside it. Some files are similar to the workspace files, and some are normal here. You can see, so some more files are generated here. What is the purpose of these folders and files? I will tell you. We will discuss detailedly. What is E2E, what is SRC? We will explore them detailedly. First, after creating application, now we will see how to run this application. Then we will able to understand all the infrastructure of this application. Once you created the application, you can start the application now. How to start the application? Open the terminal. In the terminal, here you have to run the command ng serve. We have to use the command ng serve. So generally at enterprise level, why we maintain a workspace is, in a workspace you can handle several applications, and all applications can share a common library. You don't need to install the library for every application individually. You can maintain a common library. Just like Sandbox, Sandbox. That means it will provide all the repository for building different types of applications. Sandbox is the golden server, right? In real-time development, entire development happens in 4 servers. You know that Sandbox server, development server, quality server, and production. You know these hierarchy, right? That means it will provide repository for all your projects. That is a general process actually. So what is the advantage of maintaining a workspace is across several projects, you need a library, and you can maintain a common library. You don't need to install library for every project. That is the benefit of workspace. And that is not benefit, that is how you have to create an application. Without that, it is simply like so baseless designing. That means unprofessional application designing if you don't maintain a workspace for your real world application, right? So you may see people creating directly Angular application, which never happens in real world environment. We will maintain a workspace for applications. There we maintain the library, which will be shared across projects. Now, if you update, if you install any library for your workspace, it is available to all the projects, right? That is the general thing. Now, how to start the project? What we have to do is to test the project whether it is working fine or not. You have to use ng-serve project is equal to Amazon, which project you want, because you have so many projects. So we have to just run ng-serve. It will start your project. So which project? That means it will compile this. It will compile this project, and it will identify are there any problems in this. So if there are no bugs, there are no errors, then it will launch a live server. On the live server, it will start your project. You have to access the server URL, and you need to test your project whether it is working fine or not. Currently, first it is compiling your application. And after compiling application, so if everything is good, there are no issues in your application. Currently, we haven't explored our application. That means what application contains, what are the files in it, we haven't seen that. No, you cannot write. You can write only what I given to you. You can't write anything else. First, don't invent new commands. The first base point you should know that -- is used for a flag name, and these flag names are standard. Understood? These flag names are keywords. First, you should know those basic rules. First, that is a general common thing, right? Don't invent new commands by yourself. Okay, now this is ready. You can observe that. So it says that Angular Live Development Server is listening. So server is listening on this particular address, localhost 4200. Okay, let's launch the browser. Remember, there are so many commands for executing, compiling, building, running in several ways. So we will learn one by one. Now don't come up with new inventions saying that will this work, will that work, everything will work. So what will work, I will give you in several ways. Okay, what will not work, I will tell you, right? So you don't need to worry about different types of queries. You will learn so many commands are there, different methods are there, you will understand them. So initially, basically, one by one, we are exploring everything. So here, so we are using localhost and 4200. So, and this is the location where your Angular application is running. So that means this is your sample Angular application page. It is running successfully. So now this page we haven't designed. So first we should know from where this page is coming, how Angular application runs. We need to understand its architecture. So we need to understand how it is coming here. from where it is actually coming. So what's the how it is generated. This is the flow we need to understand. For that, first you need to understand what is the infrastructure of your project, what it actually contains, then how it starts, how it compiles, how it renders the output. Then you will understand where to make the changes. You will understand what to add, so according to your requirements, right? That we will see in our next session, right? Tomorrow we will see that. So you can try up to this today. Then tomorrow we are going to explore the project infrastructure and the project architecture, and we are going to understand how Angular actually runs its application, and how do we maintain our content inside the Angular application, and how to design our own content into the application, that you are going to see in the next session. Tomorrow we'll discuss about that. Okay. Up to this, installing Angular, creating workspace, creating an application, and just sample test run of that application, you try them. Then tomorrow we will continue with the complete infrastructure and architecture. Okay.